So if we're not manufacturing those components, effectively we're still an importer. So tell us a little bit about this particular green paper, Mike. What was or is its purpose, and what is it trying to achieve?
Well, the importance of this green paper, George, is mainly to be able to assist us as a country to define what is our position collectively as South Africa on new energy vehicles. As you know, the automotive industry is actually a global business. It's not a local business. It's not like, selling fat cakes, in a corner. It's a global business, and all the manufacturers that we have in South Africa are global companies. And what we do as a country becomes absolutely critical because we need to be able to respond to what is happening also global. I mean, take for an example, manufacturing. South Africa is currently hosting 7 global manufacturers in the country. And 64% of what we are currently producing in South Africa, we're actually not selling it here. We're selling it out of the country as exports. So it moves out, into a number. I think currently we've got 147 different markets where we are exporting our vehicles and components into. And many of those countries where we are currently exporting our vehicles into, they're interested in knowing what South Africa is doing and how we are going to work with them and trade with them in the future. Many of those countries, in fact, have already given us notice at the beginning of this year. They've informed us that in the next 5 to 10 years, they will no longer be accepting some of the vehicles that we are currently producing in the country because we are currently producing internal combustion engines. And they are moving away from internal combustion engines into new energy vehicle solutions because they've reduced their emissions, greenhouse gas emissions in those countries, and they want to obviously improve the quality of the environment in their countries and so on and so forth. So South Africa is obviously, if we want to keep that 64% of our market where we are currently exporting into, it can never be business as usual. We needed to put together a policy position in relation to how we need to work together so that we can be able to move at par with what the rest of the world is doing in relation to new energy vehicles. So the green paper was absolutely sacrosanct as a first step to begin to help us to define exactly what our priorities are and how we're going to work with our partners globally to be able to get to South Africa into a different space. So we've looked at quite a number of things. Manufacturing, I've mentioned earlier on. We've looked at issues around charging infrastructure. We've looked at issues around component manufacturing. We've looked at issues around localization because we have components that we are manufacturing locally and components that we are importing into South Africa. And what is our attitude, in terms of making sure that we do not just assemble vehicles in South Africa, but we assemble vehicles that the majority of the components that we are using in assembling those vehicles are actually manufactured, locally, because we do not want to be seen in inverted commas, as assemblers. We really want to be seen as manufacturers because there's a very clear distinction. You can bring in a lot of things and assemble them because they've been manufactured by other people, but we really want to manufacture because all those things are manufactured here in South Africa, and that's what the green paper was looking at, and to say how do we accelerate that particular process, because in the next 5 years we will not be in a position to continue to do things as we are currently doing now, because the world would have moved on, because the automotive industry is changing very, very rapidly, and we don't want to be left behind in that particular change.
So, I mean, I suppose, if you're not manufacturing those components, if we're not manufacturing those components, effectively we're still an importer, because there's the design phase, which happens at the OEM's head office with their designers, and hopefully we give some input to that. There's the design phase, and then you have the manufacturing phase, and then you have the assembly phase. So I'm really excited that we're focused on the manufacturing part of the vehicles, which goes down to the manufacturing of the components that are in the vehicles, not just the assembly part, because I think we've been wrongly branded as just assemblers in the past, because people don't know that we actually, we manufacture the starter motors in South Africa. We manufacture the batteries in South Africa. And I think it's a little known fact.